Hello gamers and welcome back to Damage TV. Today we are going to be doing an Apex Legends quick start guide on how to not suck that all new players need to see. I've kept it as short as I can and still packed in as much information as possible so you can just get out there and start slaying, or at least not sucking like a complete noob. I'm not going to be going into crazy detail on the gun selection, but I will be going over what are the best to go for that you find the most of. But for now, let's get right into it, and we're going to start off by picking out your legends. You're going to start with a choice of 6 legends, but there's a total of 8 once you unlock them, each of which have 3 skills: your passive, your tactical, and the ultimate. Now, going from left to right, let's start off with Bloodhound. Bloodhound is more of a hunter. His passive is Tracker, which will let you see clues left behind by enemies that have been in your area in any short time. Kind of to better track where they've gone and give you a little bit better situational awareness. His tactical, when activated, is Eye of the Allfather, which will briefly reveal enemies, traps, and clues through all structures in front of you, as well as let you see through smoke. And his third, or his ultimate, is Beast of the Hunt, which when active gives you a speed boost and to see cold tracks of players that have been around you. Bloodhound is good for a leadership role. If you can play him, communicate with your teammates as to where players are or may be. Also, with his ultimate active, he makes a hell of a killing machine with his speed boost to strafe and flank enemies to where they really don't have a chance for defense. Next up, we have Gibraltar. Gibraltar is more of a tank defender, and I have played him the most so far. His passive is a gun shield that deploys after a moment of ADSing. His tactical is a dome shield, much like Defender Titan in Destiny, that lasts for 15 seconds, which makes for great for reviving comrades and giving a little bit of space between you and your enemies if you're trying to flee an area. His ultimate is a defensive bombardment, which calls in mortar strikes, which will come in really handy when you're stuck between 2 teams, giving you the time to assess the situation and then move forward. Next up, we have Lifeline, which is a medic role. Her passive is Combat Medic, which allows you to revive knockdown enemies or knockdown teammates 25% faster. Her tactical is Health Drone that automatically heals those around it over time, and her ultimate is Care Package, which is an airdrop of high-end defensive gear. You can also get attachments and things like that. The airdrop usually comes in really handy. Next up is Pathfinder, which is really good for fast movement across the maps and flanking opponents. His passive lets you scan a survey beacon, which reveals the next ring's location so you can plan your movement ahead of time. Its tactical is Grappling Hook, which is good to either get into or out of battles, but don't be a tool while using this. I've been with a few players that just get too far away from the group, and we all end up getting slaughtered. This is very much a team game and needs to be played like it, unless your entire team is just beast that can take out multiple teams by themselves. And finally, your ultimate is a zipline gun, which comes in super handy for you to enter, for your entire team to move across areas very quickly, especially when the zone is coming in. Now next up we have Wraith, which is more of a ninja / limbo type character with a passive called Voices from the Void that notifies you when other players are close. Her tactical, Into the Void, lets you move a short distance without taking any damage, and basically you're moving through the void. And her ultimate calls in a dimensional rift that lets you open up a rift for your teammates to move through to get into or out of danger. I've played Wraith quite a bit. She comes in super handy. I think she's in my top 3 as far as the most powerful legends that are in this game. Your ability to get your teammates into and out of positions or to rescue your teammates to get them out of sticky situations is super handy. So, moving on, next up we have Bangalore, which is like a typical soldier type. Her passive is Double Time, which if she's under fire, she will sprint a lot faster, and she does move pretty quick. Her tactical is a smoke launcher, which will drop smoke grenades for cover, which is pretty self-explanatory, and her ultimate is Rolling Thunder that covers a lot of the ground. If there are multiple teams in your area, anything like that, I found it's best used to just kind of disorient things. One of the big things for me with her ultimate, as well as Gibraltar's ultimate, is you don't get too many kills unless the other team's pinned down pretty much. They have a really long time of notice when they're in that ring of effect to get out of that area. So it kind of sucks. But anyways, next up, one of my favorites is Caustic, which when I was writing this, I didn't have it unlocked, but a friend of mine let me play him. So I've got a few hours with him, and he is absolute beast. So Caustic has a passive called Nox Vision, which works in conjunction with his gases. So you can see your enemies that are moving through your gas, anything like that. His tactical is Nox Gas Trap, which lets you place 6 containers that'll pop when enemies are near it, or it can be shot to be deployed. Now these things refill, I believe, every 30 seconds, so you could really... So if you were working with Pathfinder and you know where that final ring is going to be, you can basically own the victory by setting up a ton of traps ahead of time. So you could set up to, I don't know, probably 18 of these gas traps in the entire area. The one downside to Caustic is that gas does slow down your teammates, or at least as the time of recording, it does slow down your teammates. So be aware of that. Don't be an obnoxious Caustic player. And his ultimate is a Nox Grenade, which covers a larger area with gas. So yeah, just know when you are playing with him, be aware of your teammates, and don't be. He could be very much a solo player if you're kind of that ballsy and that boss and that good at the game. So just be aware of that and the effects that your gas grenades have on the rest of your teammates. So, and that finally brings us to Mirage, which I really can't wait to get a little bit more playtime on. Again, a friend of mine let me play on his, and I thought it was pretty awesome. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to for me, but let's get right into it on him. His passive is Encore, which drops a decoy for 5 seconds when knocked down. Super handy, especially if you need to kind of scoot back and out of the way and maybe get into a better position. His tactical is Psyched Out, which sends out a holographic decoy to confuse the enemies. And it really does work. I've shot at these so many times it's not even funny. It kind of sucks. I get owned by him. And his ultimate is Vanishing Act, where Mirage deploys a decoy or a team of decoys and cloaks you so you can reposition, then attack. It's pretty OP. So if you drop a bunch of those, they kind of get distracted by your decoys, and then you can basically flank them, get around to the side, and attack. Next up, we are going to get into the guns. Again, I'm not going to be covering all the guns because that really deserves its own video by itself. I'm just going to be going over the best guns that you're really going to come across very easily in the game. The first two that I really want to talk about is the Mastiff and the Crabber. The Mastiff and the Crabber are literally the best shotgun and the best sniper rifle in the game. They're very hard to come by. I've only come across them probably 2 or 3 times, and that's been dropping them off of other players. I haven't actually gotten them out of boxes or anything like that. So I'm going to set those aside. I'm not really going to be looking at those that much. The Mastiff, I believe, is just about a one-shot gun. So is the Crabber if you get a decent shot on them. So outside of those, the ones you'll come across the most often and the best in terms of recoil and time to kill in the shotguns is the Peacemaker, which can nearly 2-tap people and has manageable recoil and a decent reload speed for a shotgun. The best assault rifle or carbine is the R301 carbine, which is a 1 mag kill weapon if you land all your shots, which isn't that hard to do since the recoil is extremely manageable on it. So that's the assault rifle you're going to be wanting to look for. The best SMG in the game is going to be the R99 SMG, which is also a 1 mag kill weapon, with even less recoil from the R301. Again, the SMG is going to be a little bit more of a close quarters, but if you're coming into a room, you're pretty much going to slay if you have that. as well as some armor on yourself. Now, the best pistol in my eyes is the Wingman, which is also another kind of one mag kill weapon, but it has a really slow rate of fire. So if you're whiffing shots a lot, the one you're probably going to want to look for and keep an eye out for is the RE45. And I'm really kind of torn. I wrote this about a day and a half ago, and I've been putting in a lot more work with the RE45, and that's probably actually my go-to pistol between the Wingman and the RE45. It doesn't have quite a one mag kill time to kill. It would be a 2 mag time to kill, but the rate of fire and how much it puts out is pretty substantial, so it's worth looking at. When it comes to the sniper rifles, it really kind of comes down to the triple take, which has a very slow rate of fire, but only takes 4 shots to kill. And then the G7, which takes 7 rounds to kill, but has a lot higher of a rate of fire and a better chance of you landing shots if you're a little bit under, not quite the sniper type. Now let's get into the LMGs. I'm going to have to go with the Spitfire for the new players, as it has a lower time to kill and a pretty manageable recoil. But the Devotion might be for you because it has a type of a ramp-up rate of fire, but a higher recoil. If you ramp up behind cover and come out of cover, you will have a lot faster of a time to kill. And I think it really, from what I've seen, has a little bit better of a recoil pattern and a little bit more controllable. Alright, now that we got the weapons out of the way, let's get into the map. First off, the named locations on the map are generally going to have the higher tiered loot as opposed to some of the non-named locations. As you can kind of see by the map, your outer ring is where you're going to find any of these markings, or where you're going to find the best loot to drop for. So it's going to be that high, middle, and lower tier. Also, when you load it in the game, there will be things called hot zones. That has a blue circle around it on the map. These change every time, but that's where you're going to find really high tier loadouts. Another thing to look for are the supply ships. If you see one that's close to your dropship's path, that might be something to go for, but know that you're going to be running into a lot of other players that are landing on there, because it does have a higher tier loot as well. Other ways to get good gear is from loot drones, which look just like the loot crates in the game. Just shoot these if you see them, and they usually drop a decent tier weapon or decent tier gear. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Now that we've gone over everything, we went over the legends and which ones you guys should be kind of going for, the types of weapons you should be looking for, and where the best gear in the game is. So get out there and start slaying, guys.